that you have. So now let's talk about Capricorn. Parashah tells us that Capricorn is a nakra or crocodile that lives in watery ground. Watery grounds are swamps and marshes, and they're wet, sticky, and gooey. So Capricorn can also be those deeper bodies of water, but Capricorn really survives and flourishes in watery ground. Parashah also tells us that Capricorn is the water goer. He's moving in watery ground, but he prefers to be in water. Crocodiles, sometimes they come to the ground level and they become visible, but they spend most of the time in water, right? It is safer in water because they can hide there. And they're really designed to hide in water. And this is where they feel safe. Crocodiles are a huge force of nature, right? They are designed to survive in their environments perfectly. They don't need to adapt and evolve, right? They're so powerful, they don't need to change. They can just stay as they are. And the worst thing they have to do sometimes, that is to change their territory, right? There's actually ocean-going crocodiles that can travel thousands of miles. They are territorial, but they change their territory. But they themselves don't change, and that's Saturn at its best. Yeah, Saturn wants to survive without changing. And Capricorn allows us to survive without changing, right? It doesn't need to change. Capricorn allows us to be strong and protected, right? Because nothing can kill the crocodile, right? It can go in water, it can go on land, and it doesn't need to change to survive. And so, when you have a strong Capricorn with good planets in Capricorn, you can lead your life without the need to change it, right? You have qualities and traits that allow you to stay in a situation and build your life without having to change much, right? And yes, and you are going to be materially fulfilled there and emotionally fulfilled, right? Because Capricorn moves in watery ground, right? There's water and there's earth. It's a water goer, but it is also an earth sign. So we have both these qualities of water and earth. Now, crocodiles are really unique among reptiles because they actually nurture their young. Some crocodiles actually even guard their eggs. And when the young are born, they pick the young up, in their mouth, and they take them to the water and drop them in the water where they will be safe, right? Because they don't want their babies to even go from the nest to the water, because that's a dangerous journey where many of them might just get eaten along the way. And so amongst reptiles, crocodiles are actually really nice creatures because they take care of their young, which is really unusual for reptiles. And also they guard their nest, right? Which is again unusual for reptiles. The only problem is that they just happen to be carnivores, right? And at the same time, of course, they are on top of the food chain, which means that nothing eats them, right? And so there are these really powerful creatures that are just designed to survive. And good planets in Capricorn show the things in our life that are designed to last and survive, right? And those things, they are not just meant for us, to be there so that we can survive, but Capricorn also places a lot of emphasis on emotional fulfillment as well, okay? So if a person is building a life with planets in Capricorn and they are healthy planets, then they are going to live a life that's not only materially fulfilling, but also emotionally fulfilling, right? And that life doesn't have to evolve or change. And so it's really nice to actually have good planets in Capricorn. Now, sometimes people don't like Capricorn for various reasons, but a well-disposed Capricorn is actually really nice if you want to have a solid, long-lasting foundation in your life, right? Because Capricorn is like a crocodile, you can't mess with it. It's on the top of the food chain, whether it goes on land, whether it's in the water, no one can really mess with the crocodile. And at the same time, because it's Rupa Saturn, it creates these very solid, long-lasting foundations, okay? The problem is only when the Sun and Jupiter are in Capricorn, right? Because they just don't do well there. But Venus, Saturn, and Mars are really great planets to have in Capricorn. Any of those, good planets in Capricorn, they will really help a person live a life without much changes and with a lot of fulfillment. But afflicted planets in Capricorn will make it really hard for a person to find fulfillment in their material life, right? The person gets into a situation where something is not working for them. But then they are unable to change themselves in order to improve the situation, right? Because Capricorn doesn't change, okay? Capricorn thinks, this is how I'm designed. It's just always gonna be like this. I'm not gonna change wherever I go. This is who I am. I don't need to adapt. And so, yeah, this is just how life is. But then, when Capricorn is afflicted, then that is a problem, right? When a person cannot change and adapt, right? Because then it can't live and survive in a fulfilling way, right? And then a person has a hard time to change, and they're going to be stuck in a situation for a very long time. Now, Cancer is the sign opposite Capricorn. And Cancer has a high ability to adapt and change. But Capricorn is the sign of those lasting structures in life that don't change. And this is also why Capricorn is considered the sign of Cancer in Vedic astrology. Right? Cancer develops as a result of, a buildup of unresolved negative emotions where a person isn't able to change themselves positively, right? The ego just got stuck on something negative, and over the long term, that bad energy just starts to attack the body and they get sick. And people usually who survive Cancer are those who have made a huge shift in their life, right? The way that they think, that has then actually sort of positively impacted even their energy field in their body, and that allowed them to survive. But it is this inability to change the way we think and approach our life that eventually results in Cancer. Now, Capricorn is not the only place, of course, that causes Cancer, but it is the sign of Cancer according to Gemini. And good planets in Cancer are actually the planets that can help a person survive Cancer more than anything, right? Because the sign of Cancer is adaptable and it allows us, to change ourselves. On the other hand, afflicted planets in Cancer really make it very hard for a person to survive Cancer because they just resist change. They resist to think differently. And to actually replace all these sort of bad thoughts and feelings with good ones, right? They resist to heal, and they resist to just feel differently about themselves and the people in their life, right? But getting Cancer is usually caused by Capricorn according to Gemini. But an afflicted Cancer can make people also more prone to Cancer as well, right? When those emotions get, bottled up, they just can't be as adaptable as they need to be, and then they get seriously sick.